Emily Thompson had only stepped away for a minute, just long enough to rinse a plate at the kitchen sink. Her 17-month-old daughter, Lily, was in the backyard with her new dog, Ranger, a German Shepherd they had adopted just a few days earlier. She turned back toward the window, ready to smile at the sight of her daughter playing with their furry companion. But what she saw froze her in place. Ranger was shoving Lily, hard. At first, Emily thought she was imagining it. Maybe they were playing, but no, Ranger's movements were forceful, desperate. Lily's tiny body tumbled backward onto the grass, completely still. Time stopped. Emily's heart leapt into her throat. Her hands dropped the dish she was holding, and it shattered into the sink. Panic rose like a tidal wave as she threw the door open and ran toward them, screaming Ranger's name. Then came the moment that nearly broke her. Ranger grabbed Lily by her diaper and flung her across the yard like a rag doll. Emily screamed louder than she ever had in her life. Her legs almost gave out beneath her. Every horror story she'd ever read about dog attacks flashed through her mind at once. How could she have trusted this dog? How could she have left her baby alone? But just as she reached Lily and scooped her into her arms, she saw something that changed everything. Ranger wasn't charging toward them. He was stumbling. And then he collapsed. Just a few weeks earlier, life in the Thompson household was quieter, comfortable, predictable. Emily Thompson was a dedicated elementary school teacher in Eugene, Oregon. Her husband, David, worked from home as a software engineer. Together, they were raising their bright, curious daughter, Lily. Life was good, but something was missing. Emily and David had been thinking about expanding their family. They had considered having another baby, but something about the timing didn't feel quite right. Instead, Emily suggested something different, something smaller, yet just as meaningful. "What if we got a dog?" she had asked David one evening. She wasn't thinking about a playful puppy from a breeder. Emily wanted to adopt. She wanted Lily to grow up with a companion who also needed love, maybe even healing. "It'll teach her empathy," Emily said, "and responsibility." David hesitated. The idea of bringing a rescue dog into a home with a toddler made him uneasy. He worried about behavioral issues, trauma, unpredictability. But Emily reassured him that they would be careful, thoughtful. They wouldn't adopt just any dog, they'd find the right one. After weeks of searching and visiting local shelters, they found him, a large German Shepherd with kind eyes and a cautious demeanor. His name was Ranger. He had scars, both visible and not. He had been through more than most people ever would. But when he looked at Lily during their first visit, something in his expression changed. It was soft, almost protective. Emily felt it too. Something unspoken passed between them. Hope, perhaps, or trust. It didn't feel like a coincidence. It felt like fate. Ranger wasn't like the other dogs at the shelter. Most barked excitedly, wagging their tails, trying to catch attention. But Ranger sat still in the corner of his kennel, watching, calm, silent, and alert, like he was waiting for someone to prove themselves worthy of his trust. The shelter staff explained that Ranger had been surrendered by his previous owner, someone who had intended to train him as a guard dog but had instead abused him harshly. He came in underweight, with signs of both physical and emotional trauma. The shelter wasn't sure if he'd ever fully recover. David raised his eyebrows. A German Shepherd with that kind of background around Lily? Emily stayed quiet for a moment, watching Ranger through the chain link. She noticed the way he didn't react to the chaos of barking dogs all around, the way he looked straight at her, tired but not aggressive, as if saying, "I'm not perfect, but I'm trying." Staff explained he had never shown signs of aggression, even during his recovery. He was wary, yes, but gentle in his silence. Emily knelt down outside his kennel, and Ranger took a few slow steps toward her. Their eyes met. He didn't lick her hand. He didn't wag his tail. He simply placed one paw against the gate. And somehow, that was enough. He just needs a second chance, Emily said softly. David still had doubts, but he trusted his wife's instincts. They had always served their family well. So, they filled out the adoption papers and took Ranger home that afternoon. He didn't bark during the entire car ride. He simply lay in the back seat, resting his head on Lily's car seat, still and quiet, not as a guard dog, but perhaps as a guardian. Bringing Ranger home was a quiet event. No barking, no tail chasing, no excitement, just a large German shepherd stepping cautiously through the front door of his new life. Emily had prepared everything, dog bed, food, toys, but Ranger didn't seem interested in any of it. He walked slowly around the house, sniffing the corners like he was memorizing every detail. He didn't whine or growl. He didn't wag his tail either. David kept a close eye on him, always watching his body language, especially when Lily was nearby. "We can't be too careful," he reminded Emily more than once. She agreed. In those first few days, they never left Ranger alone with Lily. If Lily toddled toward him, one of them was right there. Ranger, to his credit, never made a single threatening move. He'd simply lie down and watch her, his ears tilted forward in quiet curiosity. Lily, of course, was enchanted. She didn't see the scars or the hesitation. All she saw was a big, fluffy friend. She'd walk up to Ranger and gently pat his back, sometimes trying to climb over him. He never flinched. He just sat there, like a stone statue, letting her be near. Emily began noticing the little things, how Ranger would sit between Lily and the front door during thunderstorms, how his ears would twitch at every unfamiliar sound, even at night, how he followed Lily's every movement, not like prey, but like purpose. Still, Emily never fully relaxed. Trauma is tricky. Even the kindest dog could be unpredictable under stress. She knew that. She reminded herself often. But there was something undeniable about the way Ranger looked at Lily, not with confusion, not with indifference, with focus, with loyalty. Emily didn't say it out loud, but in her heart, she had started to believe maybe Ranger wasn't healing alone. Maybe he was here to help them heal too. The day started like any other. Emily had just put on a pot of coffee. The house was quiet, except for the faint hum of the dishwasher and the soft sound of Lily's laughter drifting in from the backyard. Ranger was out there with her, like always these past few days, watching, guarding, playing. Emily glanced out the window while rinsing off Lily's cup. The sky was clear, blue as a postcard. Lily had a bright red ball in her hands, wobbling unsteadily across the lawn as Ranger trotted beside her. It was peaceful, almost perfect. And then, something shifted. At first, she couldn't put her finger on it. A strange silence blanketed the yard, the kind of silence that doesn't belong in a scene with a toddler. Emily squinted through the glass. That's when she saw it. Ranger wasn't walking beside Lily anymore. He was lunging, forcefully, not with playful excitement, but with urgency. His body was rigid, his head low, ears back. He slammed into Lily with his shoulder, knocking her over. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Lily didn't get up. A chill swept through her body. Her mind raced. Was Lily hurt? Why would Ranger do that? Then he did it again. He nudged her, hard, with his nose, pushed her like he was trying to roll her away. But Lily's body was limp, unresponsive. She wasn't crying. She wasn't moving. Emily dropped the cup. It shattered in the sink. Then came the moment that nearly shattered her. Ranger gripped Lily's diaper with his teeth, lifted her effortlessly, and flung her across the yard like she weighed nothing. Emily screamed, loud, primal. Her legs gave out for half a second, but adrenaline forced her forward. She burst through the screen door and sprinted across the grass, heart pounding so loud she could barely hear her own footsteps. 1,000 thoughts crashed into her skull. I knew this could happen. I should have listened. He was too damaged. I never should have trusted him. All she could see was Lily's tiny body, crumpled on the grass a few feet from where she'd landed. Nothing else mattered, not fear, not logic, not even Ranger. She reached her daughter in seconds, hands shaking, voice trembling as she called Lily's name over and over. Emily's knees hit the ground hard as she reached Lily. Her hands moved faster than her thoughts, patting her daughter down in panic, searching for blood, bites, bruises, anything that could explain what had just happened. But there was none. Lily whimpered softly. Her eyes fluttered open, dazed but alert. A tiny scratch ran along her cheek. Her diaper was torn, her shirt grass-stained, but she was breathing, alive, safe. Emily didn't know whether to cry or collapse. She wrapped Lily in her arms, whispering her name again and again, like it would keep her tethered to the moment. Then, a memory cut through the fear. Ranger. She turned, heart thudding, expecting to see a predator, snarling, eyes wild. But instead, she saw a collapsed figure in the grass. Ranger lay still. His chest rose in short, uneven bursts. Drool poured from his mouth, his body trembled, and his front paw was curled tightly against his chest, twitching. His ears twitched, but he didn't lift his head. What was happening? Her eyes darted around the yard, and then she saw it. A flicker of color in the grass where Ranger had been moments ago. Red, yellow, black, slithering. A coral snake. Emily gasped. She knew those colors. Every parent in the South did. Red on yellow, kill a fellow. It was one of the most venomous snakes in North America. And it had been inches from Lily. Suddenly, everything made sense. Ranger hadn't gone wild. He hadn't attacked. He had reacted. He had intervened. He had seen the snake before she ever did. And while she was inside, comfortable, safe, he had been outside, risking everything. Emily clutched Lily tighter as tears streamed down her cheeks. Her mind replayed every motion, the shove, the push, the throw. Desperate, frantic attempts to get Lily out of danger. And now, the price he'd paid. She crawled to him, careful not to scare him, but he didn't move. His eyes fluttered, half-conscious, his breathing slowed. His paw, bitten, was already swelling. "Oh God," she whispered, voice cracking. "You weren't hurting her. You were saving her." And I thought. Her guilt washed over her in waves. She had doubted him. She had feared him. And yet, Ranger had done what no one else could. He'd protected her daughter, even as the venom coursed through his body. Now, it was her turn to protect him. Emily didn't remember standing up. One moment, she was on her knees in the grass, clutching Lily with one arm and staring at Ranger's limp body. The next, she was running, sprinting into the house, heart pounding so loudly it drowned out every thought but one: he's dying. I have to save him. She kissed Lily's forehead, her voice shaking as she whispered, "Stay here, baby. I'll be back. And I'll bring him back too." Then she grabbed her car keys, her phone, and a beach towel, anything she could find to help move a 100-pound German Shepherd. Back in the yard, Ranger hadn't moved. His breathing was shallow. His body was warm, too warm. The swelling in his paw had worsened in just minutes. She knew venom worked fast. Minutes, not hours. His time was vanishing right in front of her. Emily crouched beside him and spoke softly. "I know it hurts. But you have to help me, please." But Ranger didn't respond. So, she did something she never imagined she could do. With every ounce of strength in her body, and strength she didn't know she had, Emily rolled Ranger onto the towel and dragged him toward the car. Her muscles burned. Her arms shook, but adrenaline made her unstoppable. She heaved him into the trunk of their SUV, slammed the hatch shut, and jumped into the driver's seat. Her hands were trembling on the wheel. She didn't even put shoes on. She floored the gas. Speed limits, red lights, stop signs, none of them mattered now. "Ranger," she cried out, "you saved her. I'm going to save you." The emergency vet clinic was 10 miles away. Every second felt like an hour. When she skidded into the parking lot, a vet tech ran out before she could even open the trunk. One look at Ranger's swollen leg and glassy eyes was enough. They rushed him inside. Emily stood outside the doors, chest heaving, knees buckling. She'd done everything she could. Now, all she could do was wait. The clinic doors swung shut behind the vet tech as they disappeared with Ranger on a rolling stretcher. Emily stood frozen in the parking lot, her hands still gripping the edge of the car door. Her chest was tight, her eyes burned. She hadn't realized she was holding her breath until she exhaled, shaky and uneven. Inside, the receptionist spoke softly, offered her a seat, even a glass of water, but Emily couldn't sit. Not yet. Her legs wouldn't stop pacing. Her hands wouldn't stop trembling. She kept hearing Lily's laughter in her mind, followed by the silence, followed by Ranger's collapse. Time felt meaningless. Minutes dragged into hours. The vet came out once to say they had administered antivenom and were monitoring Ranger closely. His vitals were weak. The next 12 hours were critical. That was it. No guarantees, no reassurances. Emily eventually drove home, alone. Lily was asleep when she arrived, unaware of the storm her mother had just weathered. David held her in his arms at the doorway, his expression filled with questions Emily couldn't answer. She collapsed into his embrace, letting the tears finally fall. They sat in silence for most of the night. Emily didn't speak much. She just stared at the ceiling, her phone clutched in her hand like a lifeline. Every vibration, every buzz, her heart jumped. But none of them were the call. At one point, she tiptoed into Lily's room. The nightlight cast soft shadows over her daughter's face, peaceful, safe, all because of him. She sat on the floor beside the crib and whispered, "He didn't just protect you, Lily. He chose you. He gave everything without hesitation. And I almost didn't trust him." The guilt crept in again, sharp and relentless. She doubted Ranger, misjudged him, feared him, but he hadn't flinched, not when it mattered. As dawn broke through the curtains, Emily's phone finally rang. She held her breath as she answered, her voice barely audible. "Hello?" It was the vet. And this time, the tone was different. "Emily, he made it. Ranger's stable." Her knees gave out. A sob escaped her lips. Relief crashed into her like a wave. He made it. The hero lived. When Ranger came home that evening, the house felt different. He was weak, his steps shaky, and the bandage on his paw was thick and clumsy. But the moment he stepped through the door, Lily let out a squeal of joy and toddled straight toward him, arms wide. "Ray, Ray," she called out. Ranger lowered himself to the floor, allowing her to collapse gently into his side. He didn't have the strength to lift his head, but his tail thumped, just once. That was enough. Emily stood silently by the doorway, watching them. The weight of the past 24 hours pressed heavily on her chest. Relief, guilt, gratitude, all tangled into something she couldn't name. She knelt beside him, ran her fingers gently through his fur, and whispered, "I'm so sorry I didn't see you for who you really were. But I see you now." That night, she sat with Ranger as he rested. Lily had fallen asleep on a blanket next to him, her tiny hand resting on his back. David took a photo of them, but no one said much. Words felt too small for a moment like this. In the days that followed, the story spread. Neighbors, friends, even local news picked it up. People called Ranger a hero, a miracle dog. Emily agreed, but not for the reasons they thought. To her, Ranger's heroism wasn't just about the snake or the bite. It was about trust. He had every reason not to trust people. He had been hurt, abandoned, mistreated. And yet, when the moment came, he didn't hesitate to protect one of them. He chose love over fear. And that, Emily realized, was the real lesson. Sometimes, the ones we fear the most are the ones most willing to protect us. And sometimes, healing comes not from fixing others, but from being willing to open our hearts again. As Ranger slept peacefully beside her daughter, Emily whispered one last thing. You didn't just save her life. You changed mine.